All right, board gaming enthusiasts. This vlog is kind of a part two, kind of a follow-up. The other day, and it's been pushed up to my board gaming archive, we were asking the question, AI in board games. We see this often in Dungeon Quest, RPGs, cooperative games where 1, 2, 3, 4 players working against the game itself. Essentially, the game controls the minions, the monsters, the bosses, and how these games have evolved so much to the point where some of the AI is pretty scary, pretty accurate. And we're talking analog. We're talking old school cards and charts, not even app controlled, as we see more board games start to shift into the app-based ecosystem. This was asking the question, it's kind of neat. It's kind of neat to be able to sit down and play with your friends or play solo and really get a board gaming experience that years and years ago, before this evolved and developed, wouldn't have been possible. So that's kind of the background narrative. And I wanted to follow up on and offer three titles in my collection that I think do a fantastic job of the AI, that I enjoy playing, that I would recommend. Now, naturally, if you've been following my channel, even for a small amount of time, full disclosure, I love Dungeon Quest type games. I love dungeon crawler type games, RPG type games. So it's kind of natural that my recommendations are going to follow in that capacity. But then I'm going to turn it over to you guys in the comments, because I always appreciate follow and listen to your recommendations. What are some other amazing titles in your collection or that you've played, not only for myself, but for those browsing this vlog weeks, months, even possibly years from now? So we're going to start kind of middle of the road. We're going to look at Zombiecide, Zombiecide Modern, Zombiecide Black Plague Fantasy, and Zombiecide Invader Sci-Fi. The mechanics are kind of similar. You play an actor, you play a hero, you have to survive a variety of missions, complete a lot of mission goals, and deal with hordes and hordes of zombies that move against you. The AI of this game is kind of simplistic. You have spawn points on the board, but simplicity isn't always a bad thing when done well, and Zombiecide implements it tremendously. You have spawn points on the board, literally spawn tokens, and after you've made all your moves, you then flip over these spawn cards at each spawn point, and they do different things. They spawn different types of zombies. Could be walkers, could be runners, could be tanks, depending on if it's Invader or Modern. It could be an activation, where instead of spawning all the zombies already on the table, take an extra move. It could be an abomination, which is a zombie boss. So the idea is, slowly over time, the board quickly becomes very, very overwhelmed with zombies, or Zombiecide Invader looking at Xenos aliens. They move. They follow a very simplistic path based on line of sight, based on noise and different actions in the game. Breaking down doors or using weapons and spells creates noise. The simplicity is, it works. It delivers this narrative of, like, when you start out, you're like, this is baby cakes. This is no problem. I just killed 5 zombies. What's the big deal? I mean, what's the big deal about this game? And then 10 or 15 minutes later, as the spawns just go hyper, you're like, I can't take this. This is out of control. And you very much feel that panic on the table. And what's interesting, the abominations, the boss mechanics for these kind of super spawns, they have like an extra line or two of activation. They do different things, allowing additional movement or special abilities, special powers. Again, just enough to make it like, hey, something is going on. Now, which Zombiecide to pick? The core mechanics are somewhat similar. I have Black Plague, which is kind of sci-fi Zombiecide, sword and sorcery. I have Invader, because it's sci-fi. I don't have Modern. At this point, I probably wouldn't pick up Modern, simply because I have 2 in my collection. But also, I have a buddy who is an excellent painter, and he has the full, complete Zombiecide Modern painted. He's even got painted cars and buildings and everything. Like, if we're doing the Modern thing, I'm playing with his toys, because it's absolutely fantastic. But a solid solo or group type experience. So now we jump into number 2 in my collection. And it's nuanced. Some people really like it. Some people not so much. You can watch some playthrough videos. I like it a lot for what it does. Dark Souls. And the heresy right away, before this game, Dark Souls, the board game, I didn't know about getting good. I didn't know about Dark Souls. I saw it and I'm like, Dark Souls? What the heck is this? But I was intrigued by the AI and how it works. Further heresy part 2, comparing it to Diablo. It's Diablo. It's Diablo. It's tabletop Diablo. How come Diablo hasn't been made into Diablo yet? The game itself is set in the Dark Souls universe. If you're familiar with it, no explanation is needed. If you're not familiar with it, just think of like grimdark, gothic fantasy. So you've got undead, you've got boss monsters, you've got like a whole world to explore. The mechanics involve exploring exploring tiles. And when you explore a tile, monsters spawn. And the monsters have a simple type of AI. They might try to move towards the closest character. They might take a step back and shoot at a character. They may try to bump into you and smash and knock you away and then attack everyone in a certain arc. And the idea is to explore these tiles, fighting these minions to get souls. Then you get good. You spend these souls to level up your attributes, and you spend these souls to buy equipment to utilize these attributes. So you have some interesting Diablo-like equipment. You've got item sets. You can sock it. You've got kind of a little mini crafting system. It works. Then you get to the boss fight. So you go through, you farm these tiles, you level up. You have a mini boss, a main boss, and if you have the expansions, mega boss. Mega boss is no baby cakes. Mega boss is insane. And it's winner take all. You lose, you die. So you play 3 or 4 hours real time of your life into this game. You go up against a boss, mini boss, main boss, mega boss. It's for all the marbles. And I like that. And there have been times I've lost. It's a hard game, but it's excellent. The AI for these bosses is very well done. You have a deck of cards, say 10 cards, and you pull out 8. And the 8 cards, so this way it's not always the same cards. But this deck of cards, you take 8, you shuffle them up, and every turn that the boss activates, or the mini boss activates, you flip a card and it tells you what to do. It tells you, okay, it moves forward and attacks in this direction. It jumps through the air, lands, anyone in this radius takes damage, gets knocked back, then it attacks in this direction. It uses this special ability, Frost, Flame, Magic, in this way. And what's interesting is, first you look at the miniatures, no spoilers, I promise, but you look at the miniatures and they give you an idea of how they're going to attack, what they're going to do. And then the cards that they attack every turn, while you don't know what they're going to be and the order that they're in, after you've cycled through the deck for the first time, you don't shuffle the deck up again. You go through it again. So this way you have a chance, and I'm not very good at this because my memory is just, I have too many editions of Warhammer 40,000 in my head. I got Battletech in my head. I got Dungeons and Dragons in my head. I got board games in my head. Like, I can't remember anything these days. But if you've got a good memory, you can remember the order of the attacks and know, okay, 3 attacks in, it's going to leap through the air and pounce here. So if I move behind it, it'll still take that action. I'll be safe. So you kind of learn to navigate the AI. Then you have a health counter. And when the health counter of the boss, mini boss, main boss, mega boss gets to a certain point, it heats up. It goes all Bane. You reshuffle the cards, you put in a special set of heat up cards, which are like power attacks, because now it realizes, hey, I'm hurt. So from there, things get really intense. The game works. The boss fights, mini boss, main boss, mega bosses. Mega bosses are an expansion. They're memorable. They're a lot of fun. They are winner take all. Some people can nerd rage a little bit over that. I get it. But they work. The downside to the game is it's an implementation of the video game. You got to get good by grinding. So you go through these tiles, you fight these minions. you go through again and they respawn. Well, you kind of already know what they're going to do. You kind of know the patterns of what's going to happen. Now, there's an expansion, Invaders, which randomly has these kind of anti-heroes showing up to attack you. You want to get that included. There's other things to spice it up along the way in the expansions, but it is a little bit samey, and you're kind of grinding a little bit for those aspects of the game. What keeps the grind going is the fact that as you get these souls and you level up your attributes, you draw cards from the blacksmith spending souls. You don't know what you're going to get. You can get a good weapon, an okay weapon, a different weapon, a magic spell. It's kind of like Diablo drops. So there is some encouragement to grind, but you do kind of have to go through to get good. The third aspect, the third one, and this is the holy grail in my collection, and I mention it, but Kingdom Death Monster. Absolutely fantastic. Pricey, yes, but if you look at the core, I make the counter argument. If you look at the core and what it includes on that alone, you'd have to buy certain games that aren't as good with a ton of expansions that would cost more than the core. And core is pricey. It's about $400. But then I also counter and ask the question, if you look at some of these Kickstarters to get the core and the boxes that you need to complete the game, a lot of these Kickstarters that are out there are like $400, $500, $600 when everything's said and done. So it's interesting. Kingdom Death Monster has the reputation of being super pricey. It's not. And if you play Warhammer 40,000, you're like, that's nothing. That's like 2 troops and like a tank, $400. Games Workshop prices is like, $100 for a tank. You're like, wait, what? Crazy. But it is a significant amount to lay out. But the game itself is the trifecta of amazement, because you have character development and absolutely no spoilers. But the idea is you wake up in this Kingdom Death Monster land and you have a settlement and you have to survive years. They're called lantern years. And each lantern year has you going on a hunt, hunting a monster. As you kill the monster, you get resources, literally resources from the monster. You take this back to your settlement and you craft, you level up, you upgrade your settlement. So you're literally upgrading your items, your gear. At the same time, your character develops special powers, abilities, perks. So it's just an amazing experience. But the AI, it's card-driven AI. It's the best AI I have ever experienced. Analog. You have a deck of cards that cause the monster to react. And you flip over a card, you follow the instructions, but there's a counter instruction, which means on the monster's turn, you flip over a card and you do what it says. And there's a little bit of decision making where it's like, what's the closest character? If that character attacked last turn, go after the second closest. I mean, there's a little bit of a decision tree. It's not just like move and pounce. But then on the card, when you attack the monster, if you score a critical hit or a special type of hit, you hit the monster in the ding-dong, there's an AI that takes over that reacts to that. So now you could really hurt the monster and it gets pissed and it chases you around for the rest of the game. Or it could be like the white lion, you cut off my paw, like I'm just now going to go crazy and just try to maul you, or I'm going to run away. And you find it doing interesting things. So you set up the hunt for the monster and you're like, it's like the Predator, right? When Dutch is there and he's all beaten up and he's got the trap ready and he's like, come on, I'm over here, kill me, I'm here. And like Predator looks at him and leaps over. And you're like, oh, what the heck just happened in the movie? Like, that's Kingdom Death Monster. You set up the hunt, you set up this trap, you're hiding, you're ready, you've got your range stuff, and the monster's coming in, and then like the monster pauses. And the monster like literally sniffs the air. And the monster's like, no, I'm not going that way. I'm actually going to go around this way. And the people that you have hiding, I'm going to go after them. I mean, it's scary how well it works. And the first couple of times I played it, I remember in some of my gaming notes, it literally felt like someone else was controlling the monster. Like my buddy was in the next room, just like secretly controlling this monster, because it really felt like I was playing against an intelligent player. It was crazy. So that's an example of some of the best AI literally the best AI in a board game that I've ever played. Then we've got kind of the mid-tier, Dark Souls. It works. And then we've got just kind of fun all over the place, light dice chucking, run and gun, sword and shield, sword and sorcery, the Zombiecide series. And all three titles, very, very important gems, absolute gems in my collection. So that's a little bit longer, but I felt like I had to kind of outline a little bit of that narrative. So now I'm going to turn it over to you guys in terms of AI, board gaming AI. What titles are working? What titles should we be looking at? And as always, the eternal question, because when you think your collection's done, it's not done. What titles should I be looking at in terms of AI to add to my collection, to sit up there on the shelf with Zombiecide, with Kingdom Death Monster, with Dark Souls?